My name is Juel Frydenlund. My parents came from Norway, and anything else you want to know?
Do you know what year they came to Canada?
My parents came from Norway in 1913 as a young married couple.
And did they have land promised to them? Did they come and farm?
Well, Dad had two older brothers. Dad was the youngest of 8 children, and the two brothers came in the early days, one in 1900 and the other one in 1904. And the oldest brother, he came back to Norway in the fall of 1912, and he convinced Dad to come back with him. And Dad said, well, he was going with a young lady. She wasn't quite 18. She was 18 on the 28th of December, and so anyway, Dad talked it over, and to go back with his older brother, but the dad didn't want to leave his girlfriend, and so they got married on the 6th of March, and a week later they were on a boat to England, from Norway to England, and then across a train across to the other side of England, and then they got on a boat to New York, and I guess after a week they got to New York, and they took a train to what would that be?
Dundee, I think that's what
No, but in the States. They disembarked in the States, and then they took the train from there straight north to Saskatchewan, and to where his two older brothers had came to earlier, and so.
And they were farming in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, they were the two older brothers who were farming, and so Dad had to look for homesteads, but then at that time most of the homesteads were gone, and this was in March, and then they looked at homesteads near Zelma, Saskatchewan. Of course, there was Saskatchewan is just newly born, you might say. Didn't come into being until 1905, and but anyway, it was winter time, snow on the ground, and so the homestead they looked at, when the snow went away, it was nothing but rocks and so on, and so they had to look for something better. But homesteads were already, best land has been taken up, and so Dad found a homestead 6 miles away from his two older brothers, and they were in the Allen Hills district, and there were hills galore, and so that's where Dad and Mother started.
Did any of them speak English at that time when they came?
Not at all. Dad and Mother couldn't speak any English at all, whereas two older brothers had been here for several years, and they could speak English. They learned to speak English in the States before they came up to Saskatchewan, and so it took time for them to learn to speak another language, and then at the end of that first year, my oldest brother was born in December,
Of 1913?
pardon?
Was he born in 1913? Your brother?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, near the end of December.
Yeah, yeah, he was born in 1913, and of course then every December for the next 3 years there was another one, and another brother, and my oldest sister, and they had then in 2 years between me and my sister, and I was born in September in 1917. So.
Right. Did any of your family that was now in Canada, did any of them have anything to do with World War One?
No, they had nothing to do with World War One at all.
Okay.
And
And you were born right during the war. Do you remember your parents ever saying anything about a scare with the influenza during the war when you would all have been babies?
no, I don't think so. They must have escaped it, or else I've forgotten. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
That I know what everything had happened. But the land that Dad, he had to go. He was the first 2 years they lived with their 2 older brothers, till Dad got a shack built and 2 rooms and on his own homestead, and it was 6 miles away from his 2 older brothers. So Dad, he started out with 4 oxen and a single furrow breaking plow, and he was hauling stones and everything else and breaking the land. But he had a pretty tough time. But he had the help from his 2 brothers, but they were 6 miles apart, and so they were on their own quite a bit.
So you're one of how many children? How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Dad was the youngest of 8 children, 5 boys and 3.
No, but you,
Eh?
how many in your family were 7?
Oh,
And you're one of 7?
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
My parents had what? How many children?
7.
7. Yeah, we were 7. Yeah.
Do you remember as a child growing up on the farm, did all the kids help out doing farm work?
Yes, as the years went by,
Your
my
older
2 older
brothers did
brothers
more.
helped once they were old enough to
Okay.
help.
And so how far is the farm from Saskatoon?
It's approximately 50 miles to the southeast of Saskatoon.
So do you remember, is it likely that your dad or the family would go to Saskatoon very much, say during the 1920s?
Yes, they
Well, not really
not
frequently, but that was their nearest city.
Right. And did the train come close to your farm?
Oh no. Our hometown was Allen, and it was from the farm. It was about 17, 18 miles from the homestead, and so they were way out in the country. And
Do you remember as a child what it was like in the winter surviving in your home?
not in the homestead.
You should tell about the fire.
Oh yes, they to the northwest of them. In the fall, a farmer. He was from Norway too, but they've been there for a few years before Dad, and he set fire to a straw stack on a windy day, and in here from the homestead they could see the prairie fire coming, so Dad had to hurry up and hitch 4 oxen to a breaking plow, and Mother was helping him to turn the furrows over, and she had see was that
2 small children.
yeah, my 2 older brothers. She shut them in the shack, and then Dad made furrows around the shack, and so they could see the fire coming, and they, of course, they couldn't fight the fire, and
But they saved the
they
children.
retreated into the shack, and the fire went all around the shack, but he lost his barn and whatever it was, and he lost all. He was cutting hay on the school land just next to the farm, and he lost all that. And of course, the neighbor that was, he was a Swede, and 2 brothers, and so he was going around afterwards paying for the damage, and he told, Dad told him that he lost all his hay. He said, "Were you renting the land, the school land?" No, Dad. He said, "Oh," he said, "you were just stealing the hay then, were you? And so we don't need to pay you for that." Things like that.
When you were a child, do you remember any things you used to do for activities, sports or music or church or anything like that?
Well, our closest church was from the homestead was Hanley, the Lutheran church, and
And did you go there every week?
I don't know how often, but all of us children were, well, the first 4, well, we were baptized there, and so how, I think Dad's older brother, he had a Buick car, and he probably took